Welcome in, guys. Happy Friday. That's College Football Friday, and we are 3-1 on the college football free bets heading into week 5, looking to make it 4-1. Last week's free winner was Wisconsin -6. Took care of business there, and let's see if we can get it going today. Of course, we're going to break down a couple of the games going on tonight, a couple of the games going on tomorrow. Last week, we also gave some insight into the Utah Utes up against the Bruins. That was my 5-unit banger of the week. And we have the Utes in action tonight. Going to get into that game, of course. NFL, let's talk about that from yesterday. NFL was a loser, so that makes it now 19-6-1 on the NFL season for my man John. Did have a winner in the MLB, though, with the Orioles. Makes a little bit of damage control, only down a unit on the night. So hopefully we can have a big weekend here coming up, a big weekend with college football and, of course, NFL, and the final weekend of the MLB regular season. If you guys want some of John's MLB bets that he has out already today, you guys know where to go. Sign up on the app or the How to Beat the Bookie website. Let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, these college football Fridays have been treating us well. Like I said, 3-1. And we had a pretty good week overall last week in week 4. And, of course, the Utah 5-unit bet to get us going. We'll be getting into the Utah game again tonight. That is where the free bet will be. But first, let's start with some ACC action. Louisville versus NC State. Louisville, man, this offense is getting going. 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. It has absolutely demolished Boston College. Put up a whopping 56 points. Plummer, very good. 18 for 21 on his passes, 388 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. And this Cardinals offense, man, they're top 10 right now, 549 total yards per game, 9th scoring 43 points per game, but they are a little bit susceptible to the pass defensively. They're just outscoring teams in these shootouts. So Louisville, offensive juggernaut right now to start the season. And then you have this NC State team who's playing pretty good football, coming off a little bit of a squeaker win. And we talked about that game last Friday as they went up against Virginia. They ended up pulling it out, luckily, 24-21 in that one. I will say, though, NC State's a bit more known for the defense. And if you're giving up what they gave up defensively to Virginia, it's a bit concerning. They gave up 271 passing yards to a bad offense. They did force 2 interceptions, so they had that going for them and ended up pulling out the win there. But this is just more so an NC State team known for the defense. Louisville, obviously, known for the offense here. And this NC State defense not up to par with previous seasons. So you're looking at a road favorite here in Louisville. If you look at the matchup history, Louisville did win last year's meeting 25-10. NC State won the last meeting at home 28-13. And like I said, NC State typically a bit more defensive focused. They 3 of the last 4 meetings have gone under, averaging 48 points per game. But I don't want to play that under in this matchup. NC State did not look good there against Virginia. You could argue they were looking ahead to this matchup. There's obviously that in the realm. But Louisville's just been so offensive heavy, so up-tempo. I don't really want to go against that. Now, let's talk about their win over Boston College. It was a little bit of a Boston College letdown. I mean, they were big-time dogs up against Florida State, and they ended up holding on for that one. So don't love that. What's Louisville going to look like in this matchup? A better defense than Boston College, obviously. And if you look at their competition for the season, this is going to be their toughest competition. So I don't expect them to put up over 500 yards. But granted, NC State, they didn't look so hot there against Virginia defensively. So if that happens again, yikes. I'm not on this game personally. I only could lean to Louisville the way their offense is looking. I'm not looking to lay a road conference favorite in this one over a field goal. Just can't get behind it. But I do believe that is the side. So it would be a lean here to the Cardinals. But a game I'm not getting involved in. There is a game I'm getting involved in tonight, and this is the Utah Utes, number 10 in the country, up against Oregon State, traveling on the road here. Oregon State 19th in the country, so a little bit of a road game here. And this is an Oregon State team that dominates at home in conference. 9-0 against the spread, last 9 in conference games at home. Utah, kind of the opposite, a little bit of road struggles, but granted, some of those, in previous years, bigger road favorites where they're not covering. Let's get into it. First off, before we get into this game specifically, I'm just going to announce that I am placing a future, and I have placed a future on the Utah Utes plus 10,000 to win the Natty. I am that sold on their defense. Rising obviously hasn't played, had the ACL issue at the end of last season, but I'm kind of okay with him not playing this front half of the season. One, it's created a lot of opportunities for us betting wise. But two, he's been hurt in each season he's played, and it's typically been at the back end. So I'm hoping this injury carryover from the back end of last season will allow him to be healthy down the stretch when he gets to the important games. We'll see if that's the case. And they do have some very important conference games coming up. Started with UCLA last week, defense, phenomenal, and then carrying over into this Oregon State matchup. Let's talk about it. So this line opened up about opened about 1.5, was really, though, sitting about 3.5 all week. And then this morning just further went up to 4.5. I was able to get in on the Utes plus 4.5 and the under in this game, under 44.5 this morning. That line is now going back down to 4. When I get this out to you guys in the next, 45 minutes to an hour, it might be all 4.5s gone, but there are still some spots with 4.5s up currently. And that line basically, and it's been the same thing each week with Utah, right? The line started off a little bit lower with the hopes that Rising plays, and then slowly as the week goes on, that line ticks up. And then the day of the game, it's like it has to move another 1.5. Oh, Rising's not officially playing. There's no word he's playing. As of now, there's no word he's playing. I'm assuming he's not playing. I'm taking the bet knowing he's not playing. But hey, man, if he plays, I mean, that's a full 3-point swing on the number, and this thing should close about, Oregon State -1, give or take. So again, I'm jumping on the line ahead of me. Against UCLA, that line even, went down 0.5 point after we took it. We took the Utes -3.5 and opened up, closer to 7. But it came all the way down to 3 at one point. So similar thing. I could have waited a bit more in case Rising was out, and maybe this line goes a bit higher. But when you're talking about that 4.5 to 6 range, games rarely land on 5 in football. So anything beyond 4.5, if it's not 6.5 or 7, it's kind of useless to me. So that's why I'm jumping on the 4.5 in case Rising is in and that line does close to 1. Now, I'm betting this game assuming he is not in, and that is fine by me. I put it in the preview. As long as Rising is out, we will continue to get value on this Utes defense. I put top 5 defense because that is what this Utes team is, and that is why I have a future on them, because their defense is that good. Let's look at what they did last week against UCLA. UCLA in their prior matchup, granted, wasn't a Power 5 opponent, rushed for over 400 yards. On the season, they're rushing over 200 yards per game. Oregon State, mind you, rushing almost 230 yards per game. The Utes held them to 9. 9 on the ground. 9. I mean, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. 4-0 straight up, Utah Utes. 2-1-1 against the spread. We've had 3 bets on them so far this season. We covered in both the wins. We weren't on the one that didn't cover, and we had them. We got the lucky backdoor push against Baylor. So we are up about 6 units on the Utes so far this season. 2-0-1 against the spread in the 3 games we bet them. And you bet your ass I'm coming right back on them here against Oregon State. Oregon State, coming off a tough loss against Wash State, defensively just got demolished. I mean, if you look at them, what they gave up, 422 passing yards. They could not keep up in the shootout. And granted, they do have the better, especially with Rising out, they have the better offense in this matchup. But they dominate on the ground. They're a running football team. Like I said, 225 rushing yards per game. We're talking about a Utah defense that's front sevens as experienced as it gets. They returned 8 of 11 starters from last year. They've been phenomenal. They have allowed under 60 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 9.5 points per game. They've faced 3 Power 5 teams, and they have yet to give up 2 touchdowns in a game. That is what their defense is doing, and they're coaching to it. They preach big time as far as complementary football, and they play complementary football. Yes, Johnson, not the best quarterback. Yes, the run game hasn't been as elusive with Rising, having the passing game to mix it in. But they're dominating time of possession. They're running down the play clock. They're leaning heavily on that defense. And if you're Oregon State, you make a mistake, that's all it's going to take. That's all it took for UCLA. One mistake early in the game, the quick pick 6. Utes defense to lean on the rest of the way. I am also on the under in this matchup. I mean, obviously, I am high on this Utah defense. That is why I've been on them several times this season. That is why I have a future on them. I believe if they get Rising back, and even if he's not 100% by the end of the year, but they get him back 80, 90% to what he was, they are going to have a chance to make a run at the national championship. And I think they win this game outright. So if you want to play some Utah money line, go for it. Like I said, I like this Oregon State team. I like backing them at home in conference games. I was heavy on Oregon State last year, backing them time in, time out, almost to how I'm backing Utah so far this season. And I think we're just continually getting value on the Utes because of the rising injury. They're over-adjusting on the line. Even with him not in this matchup, as I expected, I'm closer to 1 on this game. And if he's in, I make Utes the favorite. So I don't think he's in this game. The line doesn't say he's in this game. I'll take the 4.5, and I'll take the under 44.5 because if you look at the matchup trends, very high scoring. The last 3 meetings have gone over 62.7 points per game. Oregon State's been playing very over football. 3 of their 4 games have gone over 57.3 points per game. But all 4 Utah games have gone under 31.8 points per game. They're dominating time possession. They're keeping the ball in bounds, keeping it on the ground, taking advantage of the new rules, of the clock rules, making sure that clock keeps ticking, and leaning on the defense. They're playing straight under football right now. I think if you're taking the Utes to cover the spread, might as well take the under. That's how they're winning football games. And if you look at Oregon State's schedule, the 1 game of their 4 that did not go under, or did not go over, it did go under, was against one of those defensive-minded, dominate time and possession teams in San Diego State. And that was the 1 game that went under. And this Utah defense is above and beyond better than that SDSU defense. We saw that as UCLA also played SDSU, still put up a good amount of points, and they couldn't do shit against the Utes. And I think Oregon State's going to have trouble running the football tonight, and it's going to lead to forced errors in the passing game. That's what the Utes have done. That's why I'm backing them. 4.5. Give it to me. Give me the under, and give me the Utes plus 10,000 to win the Natty. I think I guarantee they have a top 5 defense, but I think there's a chance they are the best defense in college football. Maybe give a slight edge to, an SEC powerhouse like Georgia, but not many defenses better than the Utes. And I think that's going to be on full display yet again tonight. Love me the Utes, or even up on the season with them. And I expect that to continue moving on forward here. 5-unit banger with them last week. And as long as Rising's out and we keep getting value on the number, I'm going to be back in that Utes defense. Let's talk about a pair of SEC games tomorrow. That's I'm going to leave a lot up for I went through a lot of games last week for Saturday's card. I'm going to go through just 2 today. Florida at Kentucky, and I'm going to go through South Carolina at Tennessee. So just a pair of SEC matchups, right? So let's talk about Florida. They're getting better as the season goes on. They lose to the Utes early on week 1. They've won the last 3, coming off a 22-7 win against Charlotte, and they're playing dead under football. Florida's 3 of their 4 have gone under 41.3 points per game. 2 of Kentucky's 3 have gone under 52 points per game. The last 3 meetings have gone under 39.7 points per game. So clear as day, I'm looking at the under on this total in this Kentucky-Florida matchup. That's no secret there. And even by their play styles. I mean, if you look at the Gators right now, when they bring in Mertz, I didn't think that he was going to be as run-heavy. He wasn't, when he was with Wisconsin. He's been a lot more run-heavy now. I'm liking the way that looks. Kentucky been a bit more run-heavy. If you look at the stats, though, Gators, 21st, allowing just 261 total yards per game. They're allowing just 13.5 points per game. Kentucky, very similar, just 77.5 rushing yards per game, 15.5 points per game. Both teams getting it done on the defensive side of the football. Kentucky has had success in the matchup recently. They won the last 2 meetings combined 46-29. It's a low number here on a home team. Would be a lean here to Kentucky. I will say I've liked what Billy Napier's done the last couple of weeks. Florida's in a bit of a rebuilding year, and they still have been very competitive leaning on that defense. And if you guys have watched me the last couple of years talk about college football, you guys know I'm all about defense. If you've even just watched me the last few weeks, I'd rather back a good defense over a good offense any day of the week. So Florida is getting it done on the defense side of the ball. Offensively, a lot of question marks. Would be an under or nothing in this Florida-Kentucky game for me. We'll see where these numbers go. But right now, you are looking at a cheap price, more or less, here for Kentucky, 1.5, and it opened up -3. It's only come down. This is about what I make the number, 1.5. I thought 3 was too high. I don't really have an edge on the side here. It would just be backing Kentucky based off the trends. And maybe you could argue Florida's looked a bit better just because of the schedule. So strength of schedule factor, if you want to give it to Kentucky, you can. They are coming off a game where they just crushed Vandy 45-28. And them giving up 28 points to Vandy, a little bit concerning for the under here. So under or nothing, Kentucky, cheap home favorite or nothing. Just a game that's tough to get involved in. But yeah, both teams playing low-scoring football. The matchup's low-scoring, and Florida really leaning on that defense here. Under 0, Florida versus Kentucky. And then let's talk about a really fun SEC matchup: South Carolina versus Tennessee. South Carolina 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. Tennessee 3-1 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. They're coming off a nice little 31-point win over UTSA. And then you have the South Carolina team coming off a pretty big home win against Miss State. This is just a circle I had going back to last season on this schedule, and just revenge game as it gets. So if you guys don't remember, let's take a little bit of a trip back to the 2022 season. Tennessee is looking like they're one of the best, if not the best, SEC team. They beat Bama, then they go lose a tight one to Georgia, and then they're rolling, right? Next thing you know, bam, they gave up 63 points in a loss to South Carolina, 63-38. 2 losses, and you're at an SEC conference. There goes your playoff hope. So this is a revenge game from the team that knocked them essentially out of the playoffs. When you're trying to make those 4 spots, you get that second loss. It's like a red X on your season as far as making those playoff hopes. Prior to that, though, Tennessee won the 3 prior meetings. They won the last 2 in Knoxville by a combined 86-41. They are a home team with a massive home edge, 11 straight home wins, 5-1 against the spread their last 6. Granted, South Carolina has had success covering against ranked teams on the road, 8-2 against the spread their last 10 versus ranked road opponents. It is just a revenge spot, home domination. You guys know I talk about conference ownership a lot. There's some spots I have circled tomorrow. Not going to go into today. Don't want to give away too many secrets, but some spots I'm looking at tomorrow for some conference ownership. This isn't quite conference ownership. I mean, it's 3-1 the last 4 meetings, but the home domination in conference and the prior 3 meetings, perfect revenge angle. You add in the fact it was the second loss that gave the red X on the season. Tennessee wants this one. They want this one bad. It has been a very high-scoring matchup. Last 4 meetings, all going over 71.5 points per game average. 2 of SC's last 3 have gone over with a 57.7 points per game average. Granted, Tennessee, a lot more run-heavy this season. And obviously without Hooker anymore, Milton just a bit more run-heavy. Their last 3 have all gone under 45.7 points per game, getting it done a bit more ground-and-pound-esque. And we'll see that continues here against South Carolina, who just gave up 487 passing yards to Miss State. I mean, my goodness, Rodgers, have a day. 487 passing yards. We'll see if Tennessee looks to exploit that a bit more. Could only want the over in this matchup, just how it's gone, especially if Tennessee is up big. I don't expect them to pump the brakes, run the football, get their first downs, waste time. I think they want to run up the score. I think they want to make a statement in this one. So Tennessee or nothing here. And it's a big number on this game. I don't like to lay big favorites. You guys know that. And usually if the game's over 3 touchdowns, I won't even look at it. It's not that extreme. You're looking at about 11.5, 12, and the number hasn't moved too much, opened to 11. But I make this game 2 touchdowns, under 2 touchdowns. This is Tennessee or nothing here. See if Milton can get it going. South Carolina defensively just not getting it done. They give up a lot there to Miss State. I expect Tennessee to run it up a bit more. I will say, Rattler, been impressive. He's having a good start to the season. In that last game, almost 300 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions. This is just a revenge game, conference, home domination. Tennessee Vols all the way in this one. And those are the 2 SEC games I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Like I said, guys, big college football Friday coming up. And Friday is just a crazy day. That's why I kind of rushed through these Friday episodes a little bit. Not going to go too in depth on too many of the games. MLB wise, I mean, last series of the season, crazy day yesterday. How about Seattle pulling that game out last night? And we'll see what goes on in baseball today. Not going to go into any of these games. Like I said, John already has a few bets out to members. There are some interesting spots. I'm just going to lay out the spots. You guys bet them or not bet them how you want. But just a quick rundown of some of the spots going on today. You have Marlins needing wins, a couple of wins away from clinching, playing Pittsburgh off the delay yesterday in the Mets. So that a little bit of a problem there. Marlins are nobody based off spots. Orioles, 100th win of the season, clinched the division. They went partying. They went and got hammered last night. They were probably just finished drinking a few hours ago. let down, probably giving everybody a day off. Boston or nobody in that one. Then you have Toronto, a couple wins away from clinching. They want to get that wrapped up. Looking out for that. Cincy absolutely need every win here if they want a chance. And then the 2 spots later tonight, Houston at Arizona, Texas at Seattle. Couple of matchups, both teams needing wins. Texas, Chapman blows the save last night. Can Seattle pull off the miracle sweep to get in the playoffs? We will see. And then you have the Cubbies at the Brewers. Cubbies, half game back in the wild card. I mean, should be a bit more. We'll see what happens with that Miami game. Half game back in the wild card. They don't have the tiebreaker with the Marlins. The Marlins have the tiebreaker, so they need every single win. Brewers obviously already clinched up, and that's some of the spots going on today. So obviously with those playoff indications, your team's needing wins in pretty good spots. You have the Cubs, the Astros, you have the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, and the Marlins. We'll see who pulls out what. Obviously, the clear as day let down there for Baltimore going up against Boston. And those are the MLB spots. My man John already has a few MLB bets out. I already got some college football bets out for today. The 2 free bets I'm on, the Utes and the under, and a handful of games going on tomorrow. Going to have a bunch of bets on those. Some circled up spots. You guys want all those college football reads, go sign up on howtobeatthebookie.com or the How to Beat the Bookie app. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Wish you guys the best of luck this weekend. Coming off a big weekend in college football. The NFL's been hot. Loser yesterday, but on the Sunday slates now, I believe it's 17-2 on the Sunday slates. I mean, my goodness. So hopefully we can keep that going on these Sunday NFL bets. Appreciate you tuning in. Let's make some damn money.